Oh yeah, man, we're going full vlogger style. Anyway, how's it going? My name is Blake Hammond, and I'm in the middle of an SN95 Coyote swap. Now, the main reason I wanted to do this video was kind of a correctional video, I guess. Because if you're looking at this video, you know, the cheap way to do a Coyote swap, you've probably seen Foxcast Media's video, and you've seen that Jonathan guy's video. And I'm making this video as half informative, half of a response, because I disagree with the way Foxcast and Jonathan kind of framed out the cheapest way to do it. Because that way, they're leaving out all these parts that they highly recommend, but the parts that they highly recommend are basically just parts you should get. There's no point in leaving some of these parts out because they just cause headache. That's it. So I'm going to walk you through, you know, kind of what you need for a Coyote swap as a guy who is in the middle of it and, you know, who's been slowly researching and sending parts back and forth to get the right parts for the past month. So I just wanted to walk you guys through it from my perspective. And I'm going to let you guys build your own budget sheets. I know Foxcast and Jonathan, they kind of give you guys prices. You can find what you need by different manufacturers for different prices. So I'm not going to sit here and give you guys a definitive price. I'm just going to say, you know, this is what you need. You can go find the parts later and make your own build sheet off of it. So I'm going to start from the beginning, where to get the engine, and then we're just going to walk through it as we kind of, you know, go through the process of what you need for the engine, how you can get it in, all that biz. So let's start with the engine. So here's the engine I bought. Of course, I'm talking about a budget, so I went the budget route. This is a 2013 truck motor out of an F-150. So basically, I'm sure if you're looking this up, you already know it, but all that means is slightly lower compression and different intake cams and a different front cover. That's important for later. But for the most part, truck motor is going to be the cheapest option. Unless you're lucky and you know a guy who wants to get rid of his Coyote, or, you know, he swapped it and he's swapping another motor now, or whatever. You're going to buy from LKQ or a similar company. Now, the nice thing about LKQ is you get a warranty, which is awesome. You get a 6-month warranty no matter what you put it in. I straight up told them, I'm buying this 2013 truck motor for a 97 Mustang. And they're like, okay. So you'll get the warranty and you get proof that it runs. You don't necessarily get like a video or anything, but as a company, if they say it runs, it's gonna run. So, you know, you can kind of take their word on that. And of course, if it doesn't run, you just take it back. It's not that much of a problem. But the one thing that you have to consider from a company like LKQ is the wiring. LKQ is a company, and that means... One second. Sorry, my cat just scared the fucking shit out of me by doing that door handle, and it sounded like someone was in the house. Anyway, LKQ, they're a company. So what they do is they just cut all of the wires. Every single wire just gets snipped. Every tube just gets snipped. And it sucks because you have to factor in, now that you're buying from a company who probably does that, you have to factor in an extra $300 for a wiring harness. $200 to $300 for a wiring harness. Now, it's not that bad. You can go to Jegs, get a first-gen Coyote Mustang engine harness, and it'll work for either motor you have, truck motor, Mustang motor. That will work for either. But the one thing that sucks is that, you know, that comes out of your pocket. That's something in your budget. There was a shop, like some shop channel that I briefly watched. They said, you know, we buy all of our motors from LKQ, our used motors. And, you know, normally if we bitch at them enough, they'll give us the parts we need. That's a shop, which, you know, I kind of have a bit of a problem with taking advice from shop channels because it's a shop. First off, they give LKQ more than a one-time buy type business. You know, they give LKQ business constantly. As some guy who's just in their garage, you know, this motor is probably the only thing you're ever going to buy from them in your entire life. They're not going to reimburse you for a wiring harness or some broken sensors. They're gonna say, oh, we'll take it back then if you're not happy. Because you're probably not a returning customer. You know, if you build trust with them and you start buying a lot of engines from them, maybe, but no. So that's the part that kind of sucks. You have to get that wiring harness. And of course, broken sensors. I did have 2 sensors right here. These, blah, 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 blah. Jesus, the cam sensors, the cam positioning sensors broke on me. They wouldn't reimburse me for that either. I had to go buy those myself, which, you know, those sensors are actually pretty expensive. So keep that in mind. You'll have to pay for pretty much any broken sensors or, you know, cut wires or anything from a company on a motor that's from a company. But so other than that, so just, you know, buy the motor, factor in an extra $300-ish for broken sensors and the wiring harness. Next, you're going to want a tubular K-member. Now, I can already hear what a lot of you are saying. Foxcast said you don't need to buy a tubular K-member. Just use the stock 4.6 K-member and, you know, do some trimming. Here's the problem with that. Sorry. Like, some guys aren't going to have the trimming equipment to do this because you need to trim right here on this motor mount. You need to trim a little bit on this motor mount, and then you actually need to trim a little bit of the middle out as well. Some of you might not be able to manage that. I know most of you probably can. I'm not one of those guys. I don't have any grinding equipment to my name yet, so I'm not able to do stuff like that. And, you know, so for the few who are like me who don't have grinding equipment, you can't even do that. But even the people who do have grinding equipment, let me riddle you this. Do you have years of welding experience and a welder? Okay, the second one might be a yes, but the first one is almost definitely a no, right? Cutting into an oil pan, right? If you're going to use this stock 4.6 K-member, even if you trim out some of the middle, you still need to cut the oil pan on this motor. And basically what you do is you cut out the lump in the middle of it and you weld in a wedge piece. And that is such a gamble, especially if you do it yourself, you know, because this is an oil pan. This is one of the main components of your engine. You fuck it up, you're done, you know, especially if you buy it from like LKQ and you bring the motor back with this fucking cut up oil pan. They're not going to give you your money back. They're going to be like, look, you fucked up the motor. Like, what the fuck did you do to that? What are you saying you want your money back? So, you know, you're not going to do it yourself, probably. And even if you want a shop to do it, they're going to charge you at least $200 to do it. Because again, it's an oil pan. You need to have it done right. And that's the thing about, you know, shop channels like Foxcast, is they're shop channels. They have access to the people who have the skills and the tools to do all this. That's not realistically the cheapest way to do it. That's the cheapest way for a shop to do it, which even if you brought the car to them to do it, they're gonna charge you to do that, you know? Because that's still work they have to do. So saying, you know, just cutting up the oil pan and the K-member a little bit is the cheapest option, total horse shit. That's not gonna work out. So what I would do is just buy a tubular K-member. I have this QA1 tubular K-member for a Ford 4.6. And the nice thing about this QA1 motor, QA1 K-member is that the motor mounts are modular, so you buy them separately. So you can have Ford modular engine mounts, you can have LS engine mounts, and whatever you buy or whatever you keep swapping to, you can reuse this K-member, which I think is pretty awesome. But when you're buying the K-member and, you know, all the affiliated stuff, you can just go Ford 4.6. Obviously, the K-member is going to have to fit the car you're putting it in, not necessarily the engine. So buy the K-member, the tubular K-member that fits your car. Make sure you have Ford 4.6 engine mounts with it if you're buying, you know, for this engine. And then the actual motor mounts for the Coyote, you can just use Ford 4.6 engine mounts. I literally bought some stock 4.6 engine mounts, and they bolt right up to this engine. It's amazing. You don't really need to do anything to make them work. They just bolt right up. It's perfect. So, save yourself the headache, buy a tubular K-member, and then just kind of buy, you know, the 4.6 parts associated with a K-member. And also your steering rack should work just fine with it. It's not going to be a problem. So the next thing you're probably thinking about, headers. These are the BBK long tube headers. They're the cheapest set you're going to be able to get, but there is a nuance to that, and I'll explain it in a second. First off, making these headers fit, they actually bolt up pretty well. I did have to bang in the header a little bit right here to make clearance for the QA1K member, and you can't see it right here, but behind the other side of this pipe is banged in a little bit to clear the motor mount. That's just general clearance stuff. You're probably going to have to do that with almost any combination of Coyote swap headers and a K-member. So just have a $30 blowtorch and a hammer ready to go at it a little bit. Now, the only thing I dislike about these BBK long tube headers, now there is actually one other thing. Now, when you get the headers, they're going to come with 2 sets of bolts. They come with gaskets, which is nice, but they're going to come with 2 sets of bolts. It's some super minor difference between 2011 and 12 through 14. And it's like a very small thread pitch difference. So all I'm going to tell you is read the online BBK Coyote swap headers instructions before you just go at it. Read them so you understand what bolts to put in there, and then so just you don't fuck up the threads. I have a few fucked up threads on my engine because I didn't do that, and I just kind of left them in there. So we'll see how that goes. But you know, read the instructions, make sure you know what bolts you're putting in there. Now, the one other thing that really pisses me off about these BBK headers, they're the cheapest option, but not necessarily, because they have this special like flange and connector to it. And what this is designed to do is make you buy BBK's mid pipe. You know, if you want a plug and play install, you have to buy their pipe, because that's the only thing that's going to mount up to this weird ass like flange and like ball thing they have going on right here. And their mid pipe is $500 and some shit dollars, and that's retarded. So when you buy BBK long tube headers, really with any headers, any long tube headers, what you should do is throw in $200 to the budget for when you bring these to a shop and you need to have them like custom fitted for your old exhaust. $200 to $400 is probably a good range to put in there, just to have a shop kind of, you know, take your existing exhaust system and somehow made it up to these. Another thing about these headers is you do need the BBK oxygen sensor extender harness. That's also $60. So throw $60 in there as well. I know I wasn't throwing prices in here earlier, but these are set prices, and I'm just giving you a ballpark. So you will need the oxygen sensor extenders as well, and those cost you a little bit more money for these headers. Other than that, any Ford 4.6 transmission will basically bolt up to the 5.0 because this is a modular engine. Ford 4.6 was a modular. This new 5.0 is a modular. Modular parts work on it. In there, I have a McLeod flywheel for a 4.6 modular, and an Exity racing clutch for a 4.6 modular, and my Ford 4.6 modular transmission, this T45. This is rebuilt, so my budget went a little over budget, mainly because this rebuild was so expensive. I suggest rebuilding your transmission, especially if you're kind of taking it out of an older car that was beat up a little bit, and you're doing the swap because your old engine was garbage. I suggest doing this as well. But you don't have to, of course. That's completely up to you. Rebuilding these T45s are expensive. If you're doing an automatic, you can do that, of course. I believe Power by the Hour, Power by the Hour should sell an automatic engine harness, you know, like for the 4WR 40s, whatever. I don't know the automatic names quite yet, but they sell harnesses for those, so there's no worry about that. Other than that, right. So what I wanted to get to, and here's the part that I really disagree with, you know, Jonathan and Foxcast and all that. They all say that the power by the hour speed drive kit isn't needed, which is horseshit. You know, you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I can take a little under $1,000 off of my build by not getting this bracket kit, and all you have to do is not have power steering or AC. Now that's stupid, and I'll tell you why. On these Ford modular cars, the old brake systems, like before the modular cars, were basically just big vacuum canisters, which it is. You had a big vacuum canister right here, and the vacuum is what was used to apply pressure to the brake fluid, and that's how you got pressure on the brakes. That's how you got power brakes. On hydro boost systems, like they started putting in the GTs, the power brakes build pressure off of the power steering pump. There's no way around it. It's just, you want power brakes, you're gonna need power steering. And as much as I hate it, it's just true. That's just what happens. I've seen a few guys, they're like, well, why don't you just do manual brakes too? I had a few problems with that. First off, I was gonna put power steering back in the car along with AC later down the road. So I didn't want to like go through the conversion of going from a hydro boost system to a manual system with, you know, a different manual master cylinder and all that. And second off, switching to a manual brake system takes money. You know, you're going to spend money on the manual braking master cylinder and kind of just making sure the system works. So why not just save that money and put it towards the damn bracket kit, you know? That way you get power brakes, you get power steering, and you get AC. There's no complaining, you know? There's basically no reason to try to even do this swap without that bracket kit. And so the bracket kit brings us on to a few important details, like the alternator. Just buy an automatic alternator. The difference between an automatic alternator and a manual car alternator is the pulley. Automatics are clutchless. A manual car alternator has a clutch pulley, a one-way clutch pulley. Now, if you do what I originally did, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm going to buy the Boss alternator and just put that on here with the bracket kit. That's stupid. The one-way clutch won't work because it switches the alternator around. It turns the other way, and that clutch pulley won't work. So you might think, oh, well, I'll just get the Boss alternator and then a clutchless pulley. LMR, like the cheapest one I could find on LMR, is a fucking $100 for a fucking pulley. So that's stupid. Don't even bother. Just go to O'Reilly's, order a damn automatic alternator, make your life a million times easier, and it's actually just a little bit smaller, which helps with space with the kit. I think you can even buy an EcoBoost alternator, and that's even smaller, and that'll also work. So the alternator is one part of the kit you need to be aware of. The second part of the kit is you need a Mustang front cover. All right, you bought an F-150 motor, you're gonna be getting, like I said, basically just get the bracket kit from Power by the Hour. You have to. But in order to make the kit work, you do need a Mustang front cover. This is gonna be about $130 for you as well off of LMR. And the one reason you need it is because right here you can't see it because it's behind this pulley. But there's like, basically on the F-150 motor, you can't put an idler pulley right here. On the Mustang front cover, obviously there's an idler pulley right here. And so that's why you need it in order for the kit to work. Another thing is that you need to trim. I haven't done it yet. That's why you don't see it. But you need to trim right here. Right here, you need to trim this whole thing. You kind of need to flatten these pegs out a little bit along with this, and right here. You need to flatten all three of those in order for the bracket kit to successfully work. Because the alternator normally mounts down here, but you're turning the alternator around and putting it on the literal other side of the engine. So you need to cut this up a little bit just to make space. And as you can see, the Ford modular power steering pump mounts up to that side anyway, and the AC will be right down here. The Power by the Hour bracket kit, it's really nice. The bracket kit, I'm talking about the speed drive. It's really nice because it comes with, you know, belts. It comes with both tensioners because you do need a special shorty tensioner for that right side. And then obviously it just comes with all the brackets you need, very clearly and very helpfully labeled. So, like I said, just get the damn speed drive kit. You need it to basically do this swap any sort of right, especially if it's a street car. If it's a street car, you have no excuse to not do that bracket kit, because power steering, power brakes, AC, it's nice, all right? And you know, maybe if you're doing a race car, maybe it's worth saving the $200 to just do a manual brake master cylinder instead of the whole kit. But yeah, other than that, just get the damn kit. There's no reason not to get the kit. The fact that, you know, Foxcast and that Jonathan guy even recommend it, like, the main problem I have it is that Foxcast and that Jonathan guy both did the swap with the kit. So they have no idea that it's really hard to run the swap without the kit. And that's what was kind of a little mad, is because, like, you know, they really didn't know what they were talking about when they said, well, you can do it without the kit. No, you pretty much can't. Not with this car, unless you want to, like, heavily modify the drivability and, you know, the use of the brakes and all that. So I heavily disagree with that. But so far, that's everything I have into this build. The car's going into storage. I'm going to work on it in the storage. It's no big deal. Once I get the motor in there and I get it wired up, I want to make a video about the wiring, because there's one dude has made a video about the wiring, but he was in a Fox body Mustang. It's going to be a little different for a modular SN car, and so I'll make a video of that once I get to that point. And I know the car's running, obviously. Other than that, it should be pretty simple. Mention some little things, like I'm going to try to run this kit without moving the battery, but more than likely I'm going to have to move the battery. But I'm just going to get the car running first. So, you know, you move the battery. Another thing that I'm going to try is I'm going to try to leave the old computer partially hooked up. So obviously I don't have the engine harness in here right now, and I'm not going to be using the oxygen sensors or anything like that. But I'm going to leave the computer plugged in with the transmission harness, the stock one, because obviously it matches with that transmission. And I'm just going to match that up and call that good. I'll see where that goes. Obviously it might not work. It might also, so we'll see. But that's something for a future video. So other than that, I'll do some future videos as well about, like, idiosyncrasies, like pulling the harmonic balancer, because that's kind of a trick on this engine, as well as some minor other things like getting the heads on, clearance, all that biz, getting the motor in here as well. But for now, that was just kind of what I want to make the video about. I wanted to tell you about what you basically needed for the swap, coming from the guy who's in the middle of it and who, you know, pretty much has a ready to drop engine. Obviously I'm not fully done. I need to put it in and get it running and all that, but that's like a fully built engine right there. And that was everything you need to know when you're getting the engine ready to put in. So until next time, whether I'm doing the wiring or showing you how to put it in, I'll see you guys next time, and I hope this video was helpful. Have a good one.